person stands up to any of these people, it never changes. So maybe people go through that cycle of bullying and those people, it's either you're part of them or you keep avoiding them. And I'm sure for most of us, we've gone through such a situation. So it only takes one person who you're so backed at a corner. At some point when someone backs you at a corner, the only thing you can do is push out. When you reach rock bottom, there is nowhere else to go. So you can go down and go down and go down, but the moment you reach rock bottom, Janet, there is nowhere else to go but up. And I think this is where we are at as Kenyans at the moment. We are at a point where we are so pressed at a wall, so we are fighting back with all that we have. And the only thing we need to do is look at this monster that is harming us. We need to look at it and to address it and to confront it. This is the only way that we are going to win. So I don't think that people really are fatigued. It is just that people are being threatened. People are being someone is submitting you into silence. So, and we are being pushed to a wall, to such a place that now we are going to get to push back. When we look at the situation today and the conversations going on, even political conversations and around the scope, a lot of people are saying, okay, you know what, there's a lot of anarchy now, there's a lot of looting, there's a lot of, businesses that are losing their money. And I just want to say that money is not more important than lives. Money is not more important than justice. We can talk about peace, but we can have peace and hunger. They can coexist at the same time. We can have peace and have exploitation. They will coexist in the same space. We can have peace and we can have injustice. So having peace is not a prelude to having justice. What we are asking for is justice. What we are going out to get is justice. And in the words of one of our forefathers, known as Dedan Kimathi, he says, it is better to die on our feet than to live on our knees. So we cannot keep on living on our knees because we are scared. It is better to die on our feet, fighting and getting this justice that we want, than it is to live on our knees. And also I'll finish, before I finish, with Thomas Sankara, who says that any soldier who does not have an ideology is a potential criminal. So a soldier in this case does not just mean the military people or the police, people who are fighting for their rights and their justice. And all of us who are going out there are soldiers. So we need to have an ideology and see what is this that we really want to change. And really what we want, for example, it's not just Ruto to go. We want Ruto and Rutoism, whereby you're picking people because they're your friends, where we have people who are in cabinet and they are not really qualified, where we have the police using excessive force, which they should not be doing. So we want an overhaul of the system. And when we have this in our mind, then we should be able to get to where we're going. I want to finish with a song, because I said I was an artist, and this song speaks truth to power, and it goes out to all of us, for us to be able to be enhanced, to have power, to go out for...
Can you save your song for... I would love, because I want to give you the moment to... So once we finish, before we allow you to leave, just so that we can kind of end with that. Is that okay? Right. Yeah, because I'm looking forward to that, and I think it's... Kazmo, she said something interesting. Sometimes you're back to a corner, and you have two options. You fall down or you push back. Where can people find the courage, the conviction to push back, yet they feel they're faced with anarchy, with death, with threats, with intimidation? How can we collectively push back, and what happens next?
I'll start with a rather radical statement. There's this word that everybody is afraid of, the word anarchy. I don't know why you're playing safe around that word. Anarchy is a political ideology. And it is the political ideology that the government wants to push us to. And I say this because if you analyze what the word anarchy is, it's just basically anti-Rutoism. Because what the outgoing President Ruto is running is akin to what could be described as, and pardon my largesse, a kakistocratic tumbocracy. in the sense that the only way you can qualify for this government is if you're utterly corrupt, if you're utterly inept and uneducated, and if you have a name that has bedeviled this country for long. So sorry to break it to you, fellow comrades in the Catholic University of East Africa and all other school-going children, that you will never be in government because you're educated and you stand for something. Dimwits, all of you. That is what we are fighting. I need us to be alive to this reality because that informs our now and that will inform our what next. I used to be shy of this question, but Kenya is akin to, I would liken our beloved country to a beautiful woman in a narcissistic and abusive relationship. And asking that woman what next is after she bears her heart out to you and you tell her, wa, sauta do. It is imperative, it is incumbent upon us to, one, figure out how do we take our friend from this situation, because otherwise we run the risk of victim blaming. And a lot of the times the people who are asked what next are the victims. It has never been to the powerful people because they know exactly what is now, and they know that up to 100 generations they will be sorted off the blood of your backs. And they use your blood to sign political deals. That's all that's needed. Kitambo, it used to be signatures. Nowadays, the more lucrative thing in my analysis is the blood of young men. Not even for rituals or anything, because you guys are not that important. I need to remind you, when you're walking around, don't you dare think that you're a human being. You're nothing in this country as a young person. We despise you and we hate you, and that is why when there are police excesses and we go on the streets, we are told, tone down. Between you and a headless chicken, I see no difference. This is how we push back. It is in the remembrance of the cruelty that this regime has meted upon us. When you remember that corruption is akin to genocide, when someone steals money that was meant for vaccines, when someone steals money that's meant for higher education, when someone steals money that's meant for food, it should anger you because there are millions who will never get to see the light of day. We push back because of the resolve we have while saying Daima Sisi wa Kenya. We will push back because what next looks like this. We will deal circumfoniously with this government. We will root it out. We will ensure that all these corrupt officials face the law. We will ensure that rogue policemen, and it has gotten to a point where we have to be very radical in our communication, in the sense that abnormal behavior during abnormal times is normal behavior. The state is trying to push young men and women to violence because they cannot reason. That is why the only way the state can deal with you is if they criminalize you, because they know they can manipulate criminal law. We push back by remembering the comrades that we have lost. We will push back because we are Kenyans, and as my sister and comrade Masita Rus would say, Kenya ni home.
Thank you for that. Powerful statements there. I know we're really short of time and there's still a song to be sung before we go, but I mean, such amazing sentiments from you both. Maybe as you wind up, Elizabeth, and I'll probably come to you as well, Irene, there is this sense of we need that conviction and resolve. How do we also move forward with heavy education? I think it was Irene who said, we know, like you know your rights, you know the law. So how do we then now move forward by emphasizing a lot on people being equipped with the knowledge on their rights? Because that's always been taken advantage of. That is the one thing that has been a constant. We can start with you. How do we move forward in terms of the civic education, in terms of education on policies, to allow us to use that to exercise our democratic rights? Very briefly.
Yeah, I'll be brief. In fact, when you asked what next, I was going to say it's just not as simple as saying it is step 1, 2. Now I'll give a simple analogy. When you give birth to a baby, do you sit there and say what next? No, So this is a process. Now you start a process of nurturing the life. And nurturing life has a process. You start when the baby can do nothing. They talk, they walk, they go to school, and finally they're independent. Now here we have already birthed a revolution. Now first and foremost, what people need to ask themselves, I don't think people are tired as such. It is just that the tactics that are being used to infiltrate the movement is what is making people lose interest in it. But I think they're very much into it. But number one is we need to constantly remind ourselves, why did it begin in the first place? Now when you tell yourselves that, and then you come to answer your question, have you achieved what got you there in the first place? If the answer is no, then definitely you have to continue. And my view is, we are fighting for the soul of this country. We are fighting for our future, and we cannot afford to relent. They want us to relent so that they can continue with these shenanigans they're up to. So we need to remind ourselves, number one, why did we begin? And then number two, we need to do civic education. Now I'll give you an example. You can see these border people who are being, okay, not all of them. There are people who are infiltrating as borders, other goons. We need to do a massive civic awareness among the population. Show them this is the problem. If you did not stick to these handouts you're being given, this is the better part that you can get when systems are working. Let us fight. I've always said, let us fight for systems that are working for each and everyone. Let the leaders put in place systems that are working, and everyone will be okay. It's not an issue that we all want to be crazily rich, but if you can meet your needs and you can live a decent life, most people will be comfortable with that. So we need to remind ourselves two elements. We need to remind ourselves why we began, and number two, we need massive civic education for the population.
Thank you. Very important. Finally, Irene.
Further to what my sister Anjali has said, I believe that as LSK, we have been doing this and we continue doing it, creating awareness, educating the masses. We have legal aid clinics. We always host them at different court stations, and we are always urging people to come. And you can ask as many questions as you want. And because of the of the times that we are in, such avenues go ahead to help people understand how our country runs, what their rights are, what their duties are as citizens, and what they should expect from the government. I actually believe that we are not against taxes. Our problem is how are our taxes being used? That's the biggest problem, because why are you taxing people yet they don't see any benefits? We don't have roads, we don't have hospitals, we don't have proper working schools. Even higher education has become a problem. After Form 4, what's next? Are they going to, like they were saying, they give people boda? I'm not looking down on boda riders, but all of us cannot be boda riders. You see, so we need to have systems that work, and we need to have the NGOs and the civil society organizations partner up and hold this. We used to hold the legal awareness clinics. We used to go to the people. Even if you go to a market, you find so many people to educate, so many people to tell about their rights, and people are always willing. But even when they are not, sometimes you go somewhere and they want something, wanakuuliza, umetuletea maziwa, umetuletea mkate. I say sometimes we don't have bread, but we have knowledge, and I urge people to actually show up for these things.
Thank you. Thank you for that emphasis on educating and enhancing the knowledge. Before we allow our song, quick announcement, and this is for those in the room, those who are watching. If you or your loved one has gone missing, been arrested, tortured, detained, injured, or died since the beginning of the protests on the 18th of June 2024, please feel free to record your complaint at room L4. So I believe that's now on site. Room L4, there's going to be a service there that will allow you to lodge your complaint, talk about who is missing or injured, and be able to be led to the right services that can hopefully get you the justice that you deserve. And I think a lot of those platforms exist as well around these platforms. So continue to look out for a lot of these organizations and platforms that are allowing you to lodge complaints, talk about those who are injured, also psychosocial support for a lot of people. Make sure you look out for that information. And so before we head over to the space in just a few moments, a huge thank you to all of you. I think a round of applause, as I know we're going to be led out with song. Thank you for the emphasis on resolve. Thank you for the emphasis on civic education. And thank you for the emphasis on knowing that it starts with us, and that we can move that change. And so, please, over to you.
Kupigwa na kupokonywa maisha hakutatuzuia sisi wananchi kunyakua uhuru wetu na haki ya jasho letu. Tumekataa kupiga magoti mbele ya hawa wauaji. Bila shaka sisi pia ni watu, hali ya utumwa tumeikataa. Tutanyakua mashamba yetu, tupiganie uhuru wetu, tuikomboe elimu yetu, utamaduni na viwanda vyetu. Sisi hatutaki kudhulumiwa, hatutaki tena mauaji, ili kupetuli angushe haki na uhuru zichanue, na uhuru wetu wa Kenya, uhuru wetu wa Kenya, tupigani. Let me see your face. Na katiba yetu, Kenya, katiba yetu wa Kenya, tutekeleze.
Asante sana. Asante sana. We cross over now to the X space. And I love that song.
Shagala bagala, niko tayari kulipa gharama sitasimama maovu yakitawala, sitasimama maovu yakitawala. Ufisadi, ubinafsi, ukabila, kuuza sura, wataki kuuza sera. Undugu ni kufaana, sitasimama maovu yakitawala, sitasimama maovu yakitawala. Hatujajwadhifa, una deserve, bila kasha makashfa. Hii society Kenya wanaeza, share ni nyungu ya busa ama kecho ya shisha. Mfuko zinasikia eko, unajua thamani ya mali na size ya kifuli. Eyo, ujaibiwa jua unakaa kitu what? Risking jail time, police bullet for.
I have actually just entered the precincts of Catholic University. I'll be joining the rest of the programs physically. But
Thank you. So let's allow the individuals online who are not physically at Catholic University to make contributions. Yes. I'll invite Christine.
Thank you very much.
Are you there?
Yes, Christine is here.
Proceed.
Thank you very much. Let me first of all express my sincere condolences to the families that have been affected. My name is Christine Sadi. I'm a medical doctor, the national president for Kenya Medical Women's Association and the founder of the same. When Mama Rex was talking, I was very moved by the trauma that she's going through. And I wanted perhaps just to mention that we may be able to provide some kind of counseling support if that is required for those who are going through very tremendous stress, if that has not yet been provided. The next thing that I wanted to find out if as a collective, I'm sure that one person talked about it, or professional association, we could coalesce and galvanize our response efforts. But more so, for me, this was a critical moment in our history in Kenya, and the momentum should not be lost. I know people have been dented, people are fatigued, but that was expected because of the mental rigors that people have gone through, even as a nation. So I think we need healing for this nation, but more so, Kenya Medical Women is trying to organize some candlelights so that we embrace
Good evening, service savers and curious investors. Welcome to Capital Market Live on Channels Television. I'm Will Ibong, and we are here to unpack the market moves and economic trends in a way that makes sense for all of us. How did your investments fare this week, and what economic shifts should you be watching? Before we zoom in on our local markets and economy, let's take a quick tour around the globe. Here's what's happening in the financial world that could impact your bottom line. We begin in Europe, where markets closed lower on Friday as investors assessed the global IT outage linked to issues at cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike persisted. On Friday, an update from cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike led to a major global IT outage that impacted businesses and crucial services, including healthcare. Microsoft was one of the affected companies, while many flights remained grounded or were severely delayed. As a result, stocks retreated throughout the week, with the Stoxx 600 closing lower on 5 consecutive days. The pan-European Stoxx 600 index closed 0.77% lower as travel, one of the sectors most affected, tumbled 2.07%. Now in Asia, the picture was similar across the world, with markets declining on Friday. Japan's Nikkei 225 ended the day 0.16 lower at 40,000 points as inflation in the country held steady. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was down 2.03% in its final hour of trade, while mainland China's Shanghai rose 0.17% to close. In the U.S., stocks retreated on Friday as well as Wall Street wrapped up the week defined by a rotation out of this year's mega cap winners in favor of smaller names. The S&P 500 dropped 0.71%, closing at 5,505 points. Nasdaq Composite slid 0.81% to end. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.93%. Back home, the NASD unlisted securities market closed negative. The index declined by 0.61%, taking the market cap to 2.033 trillion naira. Also, turnover for the week fell. Volume tumbled by 97.54% to 5.69 million units traded, while value dropped by 53.28 to 2.55 billion naira. Purple Real Estate took the lead on the gainers chart, while First Trust Mortgage Bank recorded a significant loss for the week, and Dual Fluids emerged as the stock investors traded the most by volume during the week. Meanwhile, sentiments in the domestic equities markets were bullish for most of the week as the Q2 2024 corporate earnings announcement trickled in. Buy interest in Airtel Africa, which was up over 4%, propelled the all-share index to about 0.9% week on week to reach 100,539.40 points, its highest level since April the 15th, and consequently we see the month-to-date and year-to-date returns rising to 0.5% and 34.5% each. However, activity levels are subdued, with total trading volume increasing slightly by 2.2%, while total trading value declined by 50.3% week-on-week. Sectoral performance were mostly negative as the banking, insurance, consumer goods, and oil and gas indexes recorded losses, while industrial goods was the lone gainer. United Capital, that's UCAP, topped the gainers chart for the week, while Linkage Assurance led the declining stocks. The trio of Jay's Bank, Qtix, and FCMB Group top trades by volume. Still talking about the NGX, the Nigeria Exchange Group says it has made participation in the ongoing recapitalization of banks easy for investors. This is after the launch of its digital platform, which reduces the requirement and transaction time for participating in the primary auctions.
You look at the secondary markets part of our business, it's very, very efficient. It's highly digitized. What we're just trying to do here is to, within the ambits of the regulation that governs us by the SEC, see how much more support we can offer to our ecosystem. I mean, we do have in that primary market space many digital, sort of intermediaries. As a matter of fact, if you go back in 2021, there was an end-to-end digital sort of, capital raising activity then. What we have done now, is to scale that effort. So in this situation now, you would have many of the banks who, for example, are connected to this gateway, which means that for many banks today, if you go at the end of your mobile device, you're trying to transact, you're trying to transfer money normally, you would find an opportunity also to participate and to acquire their shares or their rights. And that is because of APIs that the banks also have consumed. So you can think of this now as scaling that up, giving a lot more multiple access and gateways into the central platform, of which this NGX Invest website we mentioned just now is just another gateway.
And that was the group CEO, Temi Popola, of the NGX Exchange Group, the NGX Group, by the way. Now, a lot has happened this week, and to dissect all of this is Professor Uche Waleke, Director, Institute of Capital Market Studies, Nasarawa State University, and President, Capital Market Academics of Nigeria. Good to have you on the program this evening, Prof. Prof, if you can hear me, I said
thanks
earlier,
so much, Will.
It's great,
Good
Prof.
evening, my pleasure.
Prof, a lot has happened this week, as I said earlier, but let's get your quick take on the NGX Invest app that we just saw there that's been launched for subscription to public offers and rights issues.
Yeah, Will, I think the Popola made the point that it's all about scaling what they have started in 2021. I recall that in 2021 there was the MTN offer was digitalized, and that attracted a lot of attention. The whole idea is to streamline the process of application and the process of even processing, to make it simple, and including allotment. So it has a way of reducing costs on the part of the issuers. It also has a way of increasing speed and the time to market. So it's all geared towards